Tell us more about, because this is so amazing as a witness for me, your relationship with Jane Austen, when it started and how it's going now.
My first encounter with Jane Austen was with a film of Pride and Prejudice that I think came out in 2006, and my cousin had shown me it, and I loved the movie. And my love for the movie made me want to read the book. And the first time I read it, I barely understood anything that was going on. I got through like a chapter or two, and I had no idea what was happening in it. I kept returning to it, though. Something kept bringing me back to it. Maybe a year later from the last time I had read it, all of a sudden, I understood what she was saying. And it was almost like I could feel that my brain had grown. I was maybe like 13 or something. I was like, wow, I actually understand what she's saying to some degree. And so I read it and I enjoyed it. And then for whatever reason, I keep being drawn back to it. I've actually read all of her books a number of times, particularly Pride and Prejudice I've read many, many times, and I keep returning to them.
Well, in the 5 years we've been together, you've read almost all of them every year, and Pride and Prejudice sometimes multiple times a year.
Yeah, yeah, it's really become quite a comfort read to me.
Right, like comfort food. Yeah.
Yeah, comfort read. I think a lot of people resonate with that when, especially if you're going through something stressful, it is particularly comforting to return to something where the characters are familiar, the plot is familiar. But something I really appreciate about Jane Austen is that there's a lot that goes on in her books. And I feel like each time I come back to it, because of how complex her writing is, how complex the words she uses are, I feel like I discover something new each time I read it. So that's part of the reason I return to it. Is it's like you enjoy the old progression of the story, but I also feel like I'm always catching on to something new each time too.
Right, and that's, I guess, as an observer of this, it's interesting to me to observe that you really enjoy it every time, and you're really laughing at the jokes, and you really get all kinds of excited with the romance going on in the book, and that's every time. Like, how do you get excited again? Didn't you just read that a few months ago?
Well, that's the thing is like I said, there's a lot of times there's something new. Even if it's me just looking up a word that I hadn't looked up previously. Jane Austen does this thing where she uses words very specifically. And if you didn't know the exact definition of it, you miss some of the humor and you miss some of the extra undertones of what she's trying to say.